there evidence of overcoaching within the formal academic environment? Interestingly, we've now got some data from elite Brazil players in Brazil. So these are 50 players from one of the professional clubs in Brazil. So what we have here is the hours per year across different age groups spent in 3 different types of practice activity. There's match play or competition, practice, which is coach-led, and play, which is non-coach-led. What you can see here is that this group of elite Brazilian players spent a lot of time in play-related activity, very long in development. On top of this, by the way, you could add an average of 200 hours per year in futsal. Futsal is a variant of soccer, but it's not included in these particular practice hours. So 200 hours a year is roughly about 4 hours per week. So you can add another 4 hours onto the 4 hours that we're also doing. So they're engaging around 9 hours per week in this play-related environment without practice. Later on in practice, as you can see, more coach-led practice is becoming quite prevalent. We also know, interesting, in one study, what we've done is we've taken players from 3 Premier League academies, we've tested them on a battery of film-based skills tests designed to measure their anticipation and decision-making. What we've done is we've grouped them into players who are high-performing on these tests as far as their game intelligence skill is concerned, not so well-performing, and we've also had a sub-elite group of players. And what we find here again is that the groups within the academy demonstrate exceptionally good anticipation and decision-making skills, i.e. game intelligence skills, also accumulate significantly more hours in play-related activity across their careers. So it seems that this non-coach-led practice activity is influential in conjunction with coach-led practice activity in terms of deciding whether you become a professional and in terms of deciding whether you develop good decision-making skills. Okay, so what are the implications then as far as practice and instruction are concerned? This is a typical model of instruction, and here are some of the key phases on the left-hand side here. So most coaches would convey information to the learner using verbal reports, so verbal instructions and demonstrations. The coach would then have to decide how he or she is going to structure practice, whether they're going to do drills or drills or small-sided games, and then they would need to provide feedback. There is an important differentiation here between performance and learning. Performance is something that's transient, is what you would observe within that particular practice session, as opposed to learning is something that is permanent, so it conveys an element of retention and transferability of that skill to the real-world situation. If we want effective performance within the session, then the research evidence would suggest that, to a large extent, the more information you provide, the better. So if you provide lots of verbal instruction and demonstrate often, then there's a better chance that performance will be good within the practice session. If you do repetitive block practice of a single skill, as characterized by drills and grids, this also tends to result in better performance within the session. And likewise, the more feedback we provide, more often, the more detailed, the better performance tends to be. Difficulty for the coach, however, is what you see is not what you get. Something called the reversal phenomenon exists. In the context of learning, actually, it seems that the evidence would largely suggest that the best approach would be to argue what is the least amount of information that I need to be able to provide the player for the player to be able to practice the skill independently. Do my practice conditions match the demands of competition? If expertise arises from specific adaptations to the unique constraints of the performance environment, then you need to overload the system for those adaptations to occur. So do my practice activities match and ideally exceed the demands of competition? And again, what is the least amount of feedback that we need to give the actual player to be able to learn independently? There's a difference here, of course. This middle bit is very coach-focused. coach-directed learning, this is a lot more learner focused. Ironically, these are the conditions, of course, that we would see in non-coach-led street football related activities. What we wanted to do is that there hadn't been a huge survey of what coaches actually do with their players. So what we did is we videotaped over 80 coaching sessions, soccer coaching sessions, videotaped and encoded them to try and identify what activities coaches were having their players engage in. So what we have here on the vertical axis is the proportion of time across the training session. Each training session roughly lasted 80 minutes. That the coaches spent having their players engaged in physiological work without the ball, technical training, technical skills practice, with no problem. Skills practice is isolated skills work with no problem. These three blocks of activities we term training for activities. And then on the left-hand side of the graph here are activities that we deem to be playing for because perhaps they're better reflected the demands of competition. So we've got small-sided games, condition games, phase of play, defense versus attack, and functional practices on things like set plays and so on and so forth. We have three groups of coaches. A third of the coaches work with Premier League academies. A third of them were in centres of excellence, which are championship level clubs, one division down in England, and then a third of the players were non-league. What we found was that on average 65% of practice time was spent on training form activity. 65% of practice time was spent on training form activity. That's a lot. So if you argue that these playing form activities best reflect the demands of competition and allow the adaptations to occur, there's a lot of time there that coaches aren't spending on activities that seem to limit the demands of competition. Arguably, you could say that maybe some of these technical and skill practices can be adapted so that they're more game-like. But nevertheless, it's a lot of time that we spent more in this left-hand side of that curve. What's interesting as well, there are very relatively few differences as a function of skill. It seems that irrespective of the level of the players, the coaches are pretty much doing the same thing. So there seems to be a theory-practice divide. Theory and the anecdotal evidence which shows the importance of non-coach-led discovery learning type of environments suggests that this type of activity is very important to the development of the players. But when we actually look at what the coaches are doing in the club environment, a lot of time is spent in drill, in grid-based practice, unopposed technical skills training, and physiological work around the ball. We also have three different age groups. We have an under 9, an under 13, and an under 16 age group. And we've pretty much got a similar pattern of results. And the most interesting observation here is that there are relatively few differences as a function of age. So coaches have a preferred manner of delivering their sessions, and that didn't change greatly as a function of the age of the kids or the skill level of the kids that were working with them. So potentially a lack of progression there in regards to the coaching process. We also had a panel microphone. We're recording the coach behaviours. Not surprisingly, the biggest, most frequently used instructional behaviour was the provision of instruction. And the thing that happened least often was prolonged silence. So it could be surmised to say that the coaches are spending a lot of time in drill and grid-based practices, which are very close, which perhaps do not recreate the dynamic situations and matches with a long instruction. So it's a very prescriptive, hands-on approach to the instruction process.